Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my humble home, my humble casa in Livingston, Montana. Okay, today, what is today anyway, just for the heck of it? It's the 27th of March of 2021. It's a Saturday, I do know, and it's almost 1 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. What does that mean? Not much. Anyway, I've got another childhood story to tell. Now, most of the time when I tell stories, as people that follow my channel may or may not know, I try to tell stuff that happened to me when I was a kid or in high school or just wherever my stories took place. But I try to tell stories that are humorous, that's got a little comedy to them, or funny as they happened. But this particular story here, it really isn't much of a story, but it certainly, it isn't even meant to be funny. Now, before I get started in this, I want to make one thing absolutely clear. Absolutely, perfectly, 100% crystal clear as gin. I lie not. This is something that I actually seen, I actually witnessed, whatever, and it's true. And so, you can think wherever you want to, but if you think a lot of negative thoughts about me, I don't care. I really don't. But anyway, I already told a story way back on my channel here, whatever number. At the end of all my movie files, I've got a number. That's the number of the file start with 001, 002, like that. But it was way back. I told this story about how we had a bunch of us kids were at a church camp, and we were camping at a place called St. Ignatius Reservoir. That's up in northwestern Montana. That's very close to Ronan and Polson. Just look up St. Ignatius. And right in back of that town is St. Ignatius, there's a reservoir. St. Ignatius Reservoir, and it's right at the base of the Rockies. Well, we were camped up there, a bunch of us kids on a church outing, and we had a grizzly bear come into camp. Well, this particular story that I'm about ready to quickly relate to you happened on the same outing. I mean, we had spooks about, you know what I mean? I'm just kidding. This has nothing to do with spooks or any of that. Okay. There was about 6 of us young bucks. It ranged anywhere between, I want to say 12 and up to about 12, 14, 15-ish or something. I fell in there somewhere in age. But we decided we wanted to go sleep down by the creek. We drug our sleeping bags down there so we could have privacy away from the adults, meaning the preacher that had us up there and the old boy that he had from the congregation. I remember him. He was a nice guy. His name was Ashley. He was an Indian fella, and he was a real good with them bears, sniffing out them bears and that kind of stuff. I was really glad we had old Mr. Ashley along, because on that particular trip we had a grizzly bear that almost came into camp and tore up a whole lot of countryside. If it wouldn't have been for Mr. Ashley, I think that bear would have came into camp, because you cut loose a couple of live rounds and put the skids on that bear, so to speak. But anyway, this isn't about the bear. Let me get on to what I got to say here. Okay, it might not even have been on the same night, because us kids and the pastor and Mr. Ashley were up there for like 3 or 4 days or something. It might have been on a different night. In fact, I think it was, because with the bear night, we had too much, our hands were too tied with that mess. But anyway, like I say, we were sleeping away from the adults to get our privacy so we could tell our jokes and, let hot air out in the sleeping bags, you know what I'm talking about, and roll around and act like a bunch of baboons, because that's where we were, and all this other stuff. But anyway, I was laying on my back, okay, and I am pretty sure I'm the first one that spotted this, and I pointed it out to various members of the group. But now listen to me very carefully, because I'll get through this story as fast as I can. There's not much to tell here. But this is why I believe in UFOs. That's what I'm probably going to name this file, for the lack of better terminology. But I'm laying on my sleeping bag, and I'm looking right up through these big tall pines, and looking right up into the big sky country. I mean, the sky, if you've ever been up here in Montana at night, that's the reason why they call it the big sky country, because it looks, especially when you get into central Montana, it looks like, when you look up in the sky, it looks like a great big globe. You can see from one end of the universe, or literally, or whatever have you, to the other end, or our solar system, one end of our solar system to the other, all right? And that's kind of the way this setting was. And I'm looking up there, and all of a sudden, I'm just, kicking back in my sleeping bag, probably thinking about going to sleep, and I seen two lights. They weren't yellow, pink, any color. They were just kind of like a light, like a kind of a vanilla color, off-white color, whatever have you. But anyway, these two lights, and I can't show you through this camera and everything, what size they were, but they were just little, like if somebody was up there and not outer space, but still in our atmosphere. They had a couple of flashlights that were shining around. But that's not the way that these lights illuminated, though. I'm just trying to give you a perspective, These were pretty small dots, is basically what I'm trying to say. Pretty small lights. But one was on one side of the solar system, and one was on the other side of the solar system, up here in the big sky country, and these lights came just like this. Well, let me do it like this. Let me do it so you can see what I'm doing here. Just about that fast. And they sat side by side for at least 15 minutes, and they were blinking. They didn't crash into each other. They just came like this, at just about the speed that I'm doing here on this camera. And just sat there like they were communicating. Little eminence of light coming out like this. Just like if they were sitting there communicating or something. And I just sat there and I told my partners, I said, my brother and whoever else was up there camping, I said, look at that up there, and you could tell, okay, I could absolutely tell, because back in them days, I didn't, there was no drinking at that age, no pot smoking, none of this crap. And all this, and I was absolutely at 12, 13 years old in my right senses, and I definitely wasn't imagining anything. But from where those lights were, I could tell the space beyond that, and I could tell about from where I was laying there on the ground to where they were. I estimated them to be about, I don't know, couple miles high, something like that. But the point I'm trying to make is those two lights, those two UFOs, those two flying saucers, whatever have you, were definitely in our atmosphere. There was no mistake about it. And they sat there for 15 minutes like they're communicating, and it's sitting there pulsing like this. And of course, us kids, we didn't know. I didn't know a freaking thing about that. This was back in the mid-'60s, by the way. Mid-1960s. I didn't know anything about UFOs or that, and I didn't really even understand the hype about them. I didn't understand anything about unidentified flying saucers or the possibility of life form and other planets and all this other stuff. But anyway, after about 15 minutes went by, these two UFOs, unidentified flying saucers, objects, or whatever have you, took off and went exactly back where they came from. Whew, just like that. From one end of the sky to the other, from where they were together there, went right back from where they each came for. Whew. When they came together, they come like this, and when they came apart, naturally, they, like that. Now, I know damn well that there's no way, there's only one thing that I know of at the time that could have done something like that, and that would have been helicopters, but we would have heard them. We would have heard them. There was absolutely no noise whatsoever. None. And all these years, I've often thought about that. These things didn't come down to the ground. Little green men didn't crawl out or none of this kind of stuff. But that's why I have always believed that in the existence of unidentified flying objects. I don't think the military had anything that could fly that fast. I mean, these things really, when they came together very fast. And when they came apart, they just, I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of miles in just seconds. And I know doggone well we didn't have in our in our Air Force, we didn't have anything in our arsenal like that. There wasn't any helicopters like that. These doggone sure weren't satellites or any of this other kind of stuff. These were positively, beyond any shadow of a doubt, UFOs spotted up here in Montana in the crystal clear blue skies of Montana. And that's all I can tell you. We all just kind of all of us kids, and we just, most kids probably done forgot about it. I might be the only living person that still remembers and talks about this. I know I've got a brother who lives in Oregon. I know he was out on that outing, and there was several friends of mine, but I know there was like 4 or 5 of us that witnessed this. There's nothing exciting. This is really basically the end of the story, but ever since that, I've always believed in the existence of UFOs, and there's the largest possibility that we're not alone in this solar system or this universe or whatever have you. That's really all I've got to say. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for letting me bore you, entertain you, whatever have you. We shall see you on down the trail. Take care of yourself, and adios, my friends. Well, I got 11 and a half minutes on this. It's not bad. Goodbye.